Hello, guys. Um, my name is Giovanni. Today we're going to be. Today I'm studying for a math exam, but typically I make these kinds of videos. Typically I make these kinds of videos and post them on my story, but I'm not sure. Recently I've just I've gotten nervous. The amount of people who follow me on Instagram. I have about 90 followers, so things I say do tend to have an impact on the population. I'm just kidding. I don't know. I haven't been feeling like talking to a specific set group of people. I'd rather just throw myself out there. So who knows where this video will end up. But anyways, today I think I just want to get some stuff out. I'm going to talk about a recent book that I've read. Well, not read for the first time, but I reread The Plague by Albert Camus. Because I introduced it to a friend of mine who just began to read it, and I wanted to have some real conversations with the individual, but I'm just waiting for them to finish it. So I reread it for the most part, and I read some Spark Notes, some what is that other website? I read some essays on the book that I thought were very beautiful. I'm not gonna lie. One of the characters I found to be the most, I don't know if this is the right word, but effectual. One of the most profound characters, aside from Ryux, the doctor, was obviously the second main character, if you would call him that, Taro. I don't know. I found some guy on TikTok who gave his analysis on the book. He called Taru a humanist. He called a couple people in the book humanist, but I found the doctor and Taru to be more humane. The similarities between the stranger and the plague are there. They're like the most profound thing. You find so many similarities between. You even find references of the stranger in the plague, which is funny. But what I'm trying to say is there is an incredible amount of similarity between the two books. But probably the most important thing about the plague, in my opinion, is the philosophy of the Doctor and Taru, which are innately against what Marisol, with the two main characters of the plague, their ideals, what they stand for and how they behave, are innately against the main character of the stranger. Marisol acts truly indifferent. He's indifferent to the death of his mother. He is indifferent to the love of Marie. He is indifferent to any kind of feeling he has for Marie. He tells her when she asks him if she loves him, he tells her that he doesn't know, and that even if he didn't, it didn't matter because he wanted to be with her in some form like that. I believe. It's been a minute since I've read The Stranger. I will say I read that book like 3 times and I loved it every single time. But anyways, and then as compared to the Doctor and I keep forgetting. Taru. As compared to them, who they acknowledge the futility of struggling against death. But even in that futility, they struggle against it anyways. When we see the preacher in the plague's first sermon, when he addresses the plague to all of the people of the church, he tells them that God sent the plague unto them as a way for them to be absolved of their sins. So he gives death, and he gives the irrational a place in the world. He gives it a reason for being. And then in his second sermon, right about when people are beginning to acknowledge the fact that this guy might be fucking crazy, in my opinion, he says that it is either you give yourself completely up to divinity and let God heal you, or let God do what he wants with you when you contract the plague, or if you don't contract the plague. He just says leave it to God, or don't leave it to him at all, and be a man of man. And so what happens when he contracts the disease? He completely gives himself up. He lets himself be taken by the plague, and he lets divinity. I don't. It's some. He words it differently. I might be butchering it, but he lets the divine take care of the disease. And spoilers, he fucking dies in the end. Dies, you know. And then when we compare who I think is the juxtaposition to the preacher, which is Taru, towards the end of the novel, when they begin to, when they actually cured the disease and the vaccines that they're sending out begin to work, of course, the doctor who's been struggling for the population to survive this whole time contracts the disease. And now he does not contract just either the pneumonic or the bubonic type of the plague, or the bacterial plague. He contracts both of them. So he gets the shortest end of the stick. But instead of giving up and giving himself up completely to the indifference of the world, he struggles. He struggles with all his strength, all his might, against the disease. And I believe it says he lives for a few weeks until he dies. But honestly, I think that was the most profound death in the entire novel, or one of the most profound things I read in the novel. One of the things that means so much to me is probably when people struggle against something that is considered to be immovable, or something that's something indifferent to our suffering. The way we struggle against it, I feel like it is an innate characteristic of being human. You know, just struggling against the unreal. You know, I love stories. I've read a few stories about, you know, the hero facing a seemingly unstoppable force. And I think one of the greatest parts of those stories is just seeing them struggle against it and put up a fight, even if it's just a small fight. Seeing them put up a minimal amount of effort against inhuman struggles, I'm not sure. It provides me with a connection to being human. You know, I feel like just an innate characteristic of being alive. One of the most, if you strip us down to our most biological instincts, what remains at probably the most, at our, what we are at our barest, I think, are people who want to live. And of course, you can argue against that and say, you can argue with anything, honestly. You can argue with dying for your beliefs, which of course is completely, that's a whole nother profound thing that I love. Not death, but I don't know. I don't know what to think of martyrism. I mean, obviously you die a martyr. You give birth, you give you give meaning to a whole mess. You give a whole new meaning to a message. But I'm not sure. I think I might be thinking with too much emotion. I tend to be a bit dramatic. But let's see, what else? I'm not sure. I really liked the book. I think the doctor's continued struggle, even after finding out his own wife is sick some 100 miles away in another sanitarium, and he continues to struggle anyways against the plague over there in Oran, I believe is the name of the city. I just right, and I just remembered one of the main ideas of the entire novel is community. In the beginning, everybody is a bit disenfranchised with reality. Everybody is always trying to distract themselves away from some kind of pain, always indulging in needless luxuries. What do they call the judges over there? What do they call them? I think they called it the same thing in the death of Ivan Ilyich. Magistrates, yes, the magistrate of Oran, a judge. Even after his wife became ill, he and his son would still go to a hotel and eat luxurious meals and things like that. And that's how it begins. But then towards the end of the novel, or towards the middle or the end of the novel, people begin to acknowledge the irrationality of the plague. They begin to acknowledge the indifference that it has towards who it affects. In the face of the plague, in the face of death, the social hierarchy means nothing. And that helps build the community that they have. And when they begin to acknowledge that indifference, I think it's when the walls kind of fall down and they begin to sap themselves together, and feelings of pride and wellness, togetherness, those feelings begin to rise up from the community. And obviously, when you struggle with people and you rise from those struggles, there's a bond that remains beneath everything. I understand people say blood is thicker than water, but mud is thicker than blood. Right. I think that's it for me, for the plague. Other than that, I've just been studying for this statistics exam. It's 2024, November 4th, Monday. Currently 1 p.m. A few days ago, I healed from I believe 2 week long sickness. Very horrible. I was congested, completely congested. There was no fleeting moments of respite. My nose was just completely congested for those 2 weeks. I couldn't breathe. And only a few days ago, they opened up magically. And then obviously I was coughing and I had a fever, but all that remains now is just a bit of a cough. Every 5 minutes or so I let out a cough. But you know what? I prefer that than being constantly congested and not being able to hold my niece. And while studying is going, can't say it's going well. It is to my understanding that statistics is particularly easy. However, my teacher wants me to do most of the work that is completely possible on a calculator by hand, which is annoying, to be fair, but I understand it provides a deeper insight into the intricate mechanisms of math. Not that I care, honestly. I'm not here to be a mathematician, but that's all there is to it. Before I contracted this sickness, I was able to climb around V7 in a rock climbing. But I just returned yesterday after about 3 weeks, I think, 3 weeks. And I'm kind of stuck at 6s. I think I did a V6 on the V grade. But 7s, I think, have ran away from me again. So it's just a matter of training. But that has nothing to do with my academic abilities, so I guess that's irrelevant to this. Anyways, what else should I talk about? I think I'll begin to read I'm gonna reread The Plague. I really enjoyed the book, but I feel like if I reread it again, maybe listening to some different music, I'd find some different meaning in there. Out of all the Camus books that I've read, which are only 3, which are Sisyphus, The Stranger, The Plague, and I don't want to say I've read another one, but let's just say I've read a summary, and it was all right. But I do believe The Stranger's my favorite. It could be just because it was right in the middle of the Sisyphus and the Plague. I read Sisyphus first, then The Stranger, then the Plague. So you could say I have some bias, but I don't care. I love it. When I read The Stranger, I was able to relate to Marisol just a little bit in his relationship with Marie. It's something everybody can relate to. Just a bit of a feeling of indifference, which did affect how I behaved, regrettably. But, I'm just hoping day by day I can fix that kind of indifference that grows. I think that indifference is healed with, is repaired with time, which is ironic because I'm a bit impatient, which is not a good thing, but who fucking knew? You right? Who knew that in order to have a healthy relationship, you have to be patient? Could have fooled me. Could have fooled me. Regardless, I'm not blaming anybody, but it's whatever. Anyways, right now, I'm trying to figure out how to calculate a probability and convert a probability into a z-score. This should be easy. And it is easy with a calculator. But my math teacher wants me to strip it down to the formulas and figure out how to do this shit by hand. I don't like that, but it is what it is. I think I'm gonna let y'all go now. Plans for tonight: catch up on some homework. Maybe at around 7. Maybe 7. I'll either play some games with my friends or I'll go rock climbing again. I do want to spend some time with my family, though. Maybe I'll spend some time with my family. I do want to take... tomorrow's Tuesday. Which means movie tickets are $5. Which means I could go to the movies for $5 and bring my family for $5. These types of things don't happen every week. Well, actually, they do happen every week. They don't happen every day. So, it's probably the plan for tomorrow. Today, maybe some rock climbing. More likely, I'm going to train. I think one of my largest goals for, I think just life in general is to climb a V. I want to climb at the tip of the iceberg, V17. I want to climb at least V12. And then from there, we'll go up to 15, just jump 2 grades. And then from there, we go straight to business. I'm going to be a leading pioneer in the V18s, V19s. If I ever first ascend anything over a V10, I'll name it after one of my family members. Or me. I wouldn't mind naming it after me. But that is everything. 20 minutes of yap. I have an hour and 44 minutes before I have to go take this exam, so goodbye.